Hey, what is up guys? This is Nishi from MST.TV here, back with another Market Watch episode. So today we're taking a look at a few cards that are currently trending on the market because of some upcoming support. Now of course, the big thing is that we will have Alliance Insight legal at the end of the week, which is going to be just in time for YCS Providence. Now naturally, players are scrambling to pick up cards for certain decks that they think are going to be good or want to try and play. But even beyond that, we have some cards trending because of the OCG. They just got Duelist Advance, which is the next core set coming after Alliance Insight, and we'll be getting that set in a few months as well. Also guys, if the audio does sound a little bit weird, I did actually move. We were supposed to move a while ago. There was a bit of a delay. We finally got to move, so I'm still in the process of getting things set up, which is why there's literally like nothing behind me. Hopefully we'll get that stuff done too. Anyways, let's get started. Kicking things off, we'll start with Heraldic Beast Leo. So this is a really old card, and the archetype it's for is probably one of the least popular archetypes in the game's history, the Heraldic Beasts. They were just sort of a generic Xyz-based theme that didn't do anything particularly noteworthy. Now, however, the Heraldic Beasts get some cool new cards in Alliance Insight. Leo has a pretty simple effect where it searches for any Heraldic Beast monster from your deck if it's sent to the graveyard from anywhere. Now, Heraldic Beasts are typically being used as an engine alongside Ryzeal, where you can send number 18 to the graveyard with Ext, then send Leo to the graveyard and search for monsters to help spam the board with level 4 bodies. Now typically this variant is a hand loop one that tries to recycle multiple copies of Evil Swarm Ouroboros, which is pretty cool. To be fair, I don't know if this build is exactly the best one, since Mitsurugi and fiendsmith Ryzeal are still going to be very popular variants, but this is an interesting one that's worth keeping an eye on, and it's probably going to end up being a bit more budget friendly as well. Now, being just a rare from a forgotten archetype, Leo actually only has one printing from back in Cosmo Blazer, which came out in 2013, so more than a decade ago. As a result, the card is pretty difficult to find. Thankfully, the deck doesn't seem to be viewed as being too strong, since Leo's one printing is currently coming in at around $5 or so per copy, which is up from the $1 or so it was before. Hopefully this card gets reprinted in either the next OTS tournament pack or Battles of Legend, because as it is right now, the card is just very difficult to find. Next up, we'll take a look at Evil Twin ki-sikil, though I believe that everything I'm going to say for ki-sikil can also be applied to Evil Twin lil-la as well. So the Evil Twin theme is getting some pretty strong new cards in Alliance Insight. I believe they get a new main deck monster and a Link 1, both of which seem really good. The interesting thing is that several cards from the theme are actually light fiends, which mean that they synergize naturally very well with the fiendsmith engine, and it helps that the fiendsmith engine wasn't hit on the ban list at all. Now in Quarter Century Stampede, we had a couple of the main deck live twins get reprinted, but the Evil Twin Link 2s are actually somewhat difficult to find. They had the original Ultra and Collector's rare printings, and then they were secret rares in one of the Battles of Legend sets as well, but that's it. Of course, each of them is very important to the strategy, generally seeing play at 2. I believe that ki-sikil draws a card while lil-la pops a card, and they can each special summon the other twin out of the graveyard. The new live twin cards are actually pretty low rarity, and with the other pieces being cheap, players have turned and bought up the Link 2s. The collector's rares were always pretty pricey, but they've jumped from being around $30 to $35 to now being $50 to $60 each. With Ultra ki-sikils, the lowest ones are currently around $12 to $15, though we don't see any sold listings higher than about $6 or so on TCG Player. And then finally, there is that secret rare reprint from Battles of Legend Crystal Revenge. Those were only $1 or $2 before, but they're now a solid $8 to $10 a piece. Lil-las are generally cheaper across the board, I guess because drawing a card is a lot stronger than popping cards, but they do also have the potential to go up as well. This is a card that you guys should probably aim to dig up out of your hollow bulk and keep in your trade binders going into the first weekend of Alliance Insight being playable. Okay, so the next thing we have here is something we've definitely touched on before. We're looking at Stream Dragon Ruler of Droplets. So I think one of the coolest things we're getting out of Alliance Insight is the new light and dark Dragon Rulers. I remember thinking back in the day that Dragon Rulers could just never come off the list. I guess Yu-Gi-Oh has just really changed that much. Anyways, the Dragon Rulers aren't exactly meta relevant either here or in the OCG. They have some consistency issues, and they just don't quite do enough to keep up with the pace of today's game. However, players definitely still want to try and play the deck, and we happen to have gotten reprints of all the Dragon Rulers in Quarter Century Bonanza just in time for the new cards. Anyways, Here we're taking a look at Stream because it is the highest in terms of price, though generally all of the QCR rulers are up across the board, though there are a couple of things to note. One is that the water ones are higher in price than the other attributes, so Stream is higher than the other babies and Title is higher than the other adults. I believe it's because you can actually make use of them in Mermail Atlantean and they actually synergize with the cards. The other attributes, they don't really have a deck for their attribute that you can run them in. The other thing is that with the babies, they were actually part of the nostalgia pool in Bonanza, so they're much harder to find than the adults. So we see all of the babies at higher prices than the adult versions, and while the adults have super, ultra, and secret printings, they are much more accessible. So yeah, with Stream, we have the QCRs coming in at $35 to $40, with very few listings actually currently available, and then even the Platinums up to $6 each. Just remember that all of the other Dragon Rulers are going to be cheaper than Stream, but of course all of them do have lower rarity printings available as long as you're okay with playing like the common baby rulers from Lord of the Tachyon Galaxy, and then the adults in the cheaper rarities from Quarter Century Bonanza. So this is a pretty cool one. We have Verudras, the final bringer of the end times. Now this card is a scary generic rank 10 Xyz monster. It's one of the few extra deck Omni Negates we have in the game still, and it has multiple ways to pop cards on the field. Now the main problem with this card has always been finding a deck to use it in, since level 10s aren't exactly the most accessible. The only real deck that has played this card was Yubel, which fell off pretty significantly after Phantom of Yubel was hit to 1, and then Ryuga as well, which has never been meta relevant. Now, however, Verudras seems to be getting some attention from the players once again, and it's actually for the same two decks. On one hand, Ryuga got some support in Alliance Insight, though it isn't as strong as the new Ryziel or Malice support, but it does have some players interested in it nonetheless. And then of course with Yubel, they do get a slight boost with Sharvara going from 1 to 2 on the last ban list, though I don't think it really makes the deck that much more playable. That said, I don't know if it's going to be enough to keep Verudras' price high. The card is due to be reprinted in the 2025 tins, and I don't think that either Ryuga or Yubel is going to be a contender over the next several months, and I don't really see any other deck in the format that's going to make this card a key piece of their extra deck either. That said, Verudras has a pretty turbulent price history, as it was down at around $10 towards the end of 2024. It has climbed back steadily and now sits between $25 and $30 per copy. I don't know, personally, this is something I would be looking to offload, since I really don't see it making any sort of impact on the format before it gets reprinted. I suppose you could just keep one just in case you really want to play it in something, but aside from that, I definitely look to move your extra copies while it's seeing some hype. Alright, so we're moving on to some cards that are getting support past Alliance Insight, and we're starting by taking a look at Vanquish Soul Jiaolong. So the Vanquish Soul deck is a really cool one, but it's never been particularly strong or meta relevant. However, the theme is actually getting a lot of help later on in the year. First, we have some new cards that are confirmed to be coming up in the next core set called Duelist Advance, and it actually looks really useful. On top of that, the deck actually synergizes really well with the new K9 strategy coming out in Justice Hunters, as Vanquish Soul actually has a couple of level 5 monsters. Jiaolong is one of them, and while this card could be run at 2 to 3 before, it now seems to be something that all Vanquish Soul K9 players are using at 3. You can use it and reveal 2 fires from hand to search for any Vanquish Soul card from your deck, so that can be another monster as follow-up, or any of the spells and traps. Unfortunately, you still don't get to search for Stake Your Soul. Now, Jiaolong stands out because unlike cards like Raisin, this card has just one printing from back in Age of Overlord. This was literally one of the cheapest Ultras and even the cheapest QCRs in the set, but it's now actually worth something. We have the QCR printing at $90 as the cheapest copy available, though they don't sell for more than around $60 according to those TCG player sold listings. And then with the Ultras, they were literally like 25 cents before, but they're now actually up at around $4 to $5 each. The strange thing is that this card should have been in the 2024 tins because that's where Age of Overlord fell, but it was excluded for whatever reason, so we technically don't know when this reprint is going to drop. Theoretically, it will come in either Battles of Legend or an OTS tournament pack closer to the release of Duelist Advance, though if for whatever reason it does dodge those sets, expect this card to continue trending upwards price-wise, as basically all of the other Vanquish Soul cards have been reprinted. Next up, we have Lunalight Serenade Dance. So one of the other themes getting support in Duelist Advance is Lunalights, and they actually seem like they might be a really solid tier 1.5 deck. they have a really strong new boss monster that's basically immune to everything, and a lot of the Lunalight cards like Lunalight Tiger are a bit older and don't have once per turn clauses on them. Serenade Dance is a continuous trap, but you don't actually generally care too much about its on-field effect. Rather, you want to get this card into the graveyard, then banish it from there to special summon a Lunalight from your deck that can activate its effect, and then send a card from your hand to the graveyard. In early OCG Lunalight builds, players are running this card alongside Foolish Burial Goods, though it is in the side deck, I assume, because the package is more useful when you are going first and you'd rather have the hand traps going second. Now, oddly enough, we did see Serenade Dance get bought out over the last week or so. It was around $1 or $2, but the card is now up to $15 with tons of sold listings at or above $10. This isn't unprecedented, as the last time that Lunalight saw play as an engine, I think Serenade Dances hit like 20 to 25 each. The thing that makes this ridiculous, however, is that Serenade Dance actually got a common reprint in Legendary Duelist Season 2, which means that you can literally pick this card up for like 25 cents. So yeah, I mean, I like blinging out my decks and all, but it seems really silly to me to spend $15 for a one of brick that you don't want to draw when you can get a common as basically a bulk card. If you do have supers, I would definitely try to offload them if you can find someone who's actually willing to pay up for them. And finally, the last card I want to take a look at for today is Gem Armadillo. So this card is of course support for the Gem Knight deck, a deck that's most well known for its ability to FTK with burn effects, or for its usage as an engine alongside Monarchs a few years ago. Now, Gem Knights are getting a bit of attention. They did get some new support announced a little while ago in Terminal World 2 over in the OCG, though unfortunately we haven't gotten any sort of indication of when those cards are going to be brought over here to the TCG. The other thing worth noting is that Brilliant Fusion did go from banned to limited status, so that's going to be a nice little boost for them, though it is just a one of. Now, to be honest, I don't know exactly why it is that Gem Armadillo specifically was bought out. This card is basically a Stratos searching for any Gem Knight monster on normal summon only. Like, I get that the card is going to be good for Gem Knights, but I don't quite know why it is that players chose the last week or so to buy this card up and pull their listings all of a sudden. The card only has 2 printings, and the listings are a little bit weird since there aren't too many copies even available. The secret rares from Hidden Arsenal 5 have moved at around $15 according to the sold listings, though the cheapest one you can buy right now is at $21. And then with the DT, of course, there's no near mint copies that are actually available to purchase, but they've mostly moved at around the $15 to $20 range as well, with a bunch of people probably pulling a bunch of those listings. If you guys know of a specific combo or video or something that has caused this card in particular to jump all of a sudden, make sure you let us know down in the comments so that I can pin it. Alright guys, that is all I have for today's episode. Alliance Insight is definitely a really cool set. I know it might not seem too crazy in terms of like value, because aside from March Hare, there's not really any expensive high dollar cards, but the set brings with it a ton of cool support for a lot of different strategies, and so as a result it is creating a whole bunch of movement on the secondary market that I find really interesting to pay attention to. Anyways guys, if you did enjoy today's market watch, make sure you please leave a thumbs up on the video, make sure you leave a comment in the comment section down below, hit subscribe if you haven't already, and until next time guys, don't forget to hold on to your MST.TV.